Welcome everybody again to another episode of the ideaXme show, that profiles humans behind the really big ideas that are shaping the world and the future, inspiring the future and future creators, and for all those like really great stories. I'm Ira Pastor, your life sciences ambassador along for the journey today. So today we have a really fascinating show for you with a set of, what we talk about a lot, really convergent themes, where we're going to be discussing music, entertainment, technology, innovation, investing, and even some social and economic equality topics. We're honored today to be joined by Mr. Kim Nazel, also known by his stage names Arabian Prince or Professor X. Mr. Nazel is a rapper, singer, songwriter, producer, DJ, was a founding member of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame rap group N.W.A, and most recently is a burgeoning technologist, venture capitalist, startup mentor, and business advisor. Mr. Nazel has a wide range of interests in animation, 3D FX, music and computer digital technologies, and is currently the Chief Executive Officer of Mikkelsen Music, owner of Hypnotic FX and One Fader, president of the LA First Tech Challenge Southern California Robotics Competition, and founder and chief innovative of Innovate Next, which is a Silicon Beach, California-based product innovation incubator and technology center ultimately designed to help empower bright inventors, helping to leverage his expertise in the industry, his strategic resources, and his mentorship. Some of the publicly disclosed investments in Mr. Nazel's portfolio include the Strio app, which is a live streaming app for nightclubs, bars, and festivals. Advertas, which is artificial intelligence-driven virtual reality, augmented reality video ad platform. And he's also active in biotech now with a company called Covatech, which is a cloud-based suite of apps that helps small and medium businesses access COVID-19 screening, testing resources, and hard-to-procure protective equipment. His passion for technology led him to create a 3D animation special effects studio back in the 1990s, where he was working with companies like Saban Entertainment, Fox, and has created over 100 video game titles for Fox Interactive and Vivendi. And for some of our international viewers and listeners who are less aware of sort of the West Coast technology scene, Silicon Beach, which is slightly south of Silicon Valley, is part of the Los Angeles metropolitan area, and it's currently home to hundreds of tech startup companies, and becoming known as a very prominent technology hub around the world. It's home to many technology companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, and so forth. All that being said, Mr. Nazel, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come on the show today.
Thanks for having me. And I want to hire you as my personal, I don't know what, you're going to be like my new manager, agent, because no one said it better. I'm like, I did that. I didn't even know some of those things.
So it's a lot of stuff.
I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate your time today, really. Typically we start off the show by giving our guests the floor for a little bit. You've been rapping and producing since the 1980s, but you were developing this sort of tangential passion for technology, video games, animation, special effects. And I saw a quote recently in an article where you talked about how you were cursed with a very high IQ, but you were living in the hood, you were a nerd, and your uncles were gangbangers. If you could sort of walk us through some of those early days, especially for some of the folks that may be watching the show less familiar sort of with the hip hop scene in the 1980s, especially the West Coast, that'd be a great intro for everybody.
Yeah. So, and this is something I've never mentioned before. Since you mentioned that, I do talk about my family influence, the good and the bad and the ugly. That's what I kind of call it. But it's kind of funny when you look at all of these, urban or black shows from back in the days, the Good Times and stuff like that. That's how I grew up. I was like this little kid, and you had, family members that were listening to music and doing all kind of things. And you had, I was the only child, so I had an overprotective mother. My father was a writer and editor of magazines and newspapers and stuff like that. My mother was a pianist and, music teacher and classical and, played piano at church. So I had those influences, but also my uncles and cousins were the ones in the street doing all the crazy stuff, doing the drugs and fighting police and acting a fool, getting shot and stabbed and all of those things. So I had both influences, and they all were very overprotective of me. So it was kind of like, yeah, we're in Compton, you can go out and play, but you can only walk from, like, we lived on a cul-de-sac kind of, so it was kind of like
Hmm.
you can go from here to that corner, and you can go to the park, but only this side of the park, because the other side of the park is the bad people, like that, we don't want you over there. So they kept me out of trouble, kept me in the house, and really had me in the books, and messing around with the stereo systems, and whatever else growing up.
It's really interesting. Yeah, obviously, a lot of people probably want to ask you about sort of, especially with Straight Outta Compton, the movie and so forth. They want to hear about sort of the N.W.A history. But there was something, I was unaware until recently that you were responsible for producing the Grammy-nominated, gold-certified song "Supersonic" by J.J. Fad. And I consider myself sort of old school now, and I'm in my 50s. But thinking back on all of that, um, here was a sort of a rap song that was also a dance song. It was one of the first all-female rap groups, one of the first to be nominated for a Grammy. And I sort of think of it as one of those songs aside from maybe like Rapper's Delight and Jam On It, things from that era, that people nowadays, my age, probably still can sing, as opposed, I might not know a lot of N.W.A lyrics, but
Yeah.
what was it like, sort of, thinking about this sort of this convergent theme of bringing all this stuff together? What was it like in those days when that was something very different than sort of, I had the gangster rap stuff here with N.W.A, but this was very different because it was much more than just rap with that particular song. Tell us just a little bit about that. It's very intriguing part of the story.
So it's actually pretty funny, because before gangster rap and more hardcore hip hop came about, East Coast and West Coast, it was all dance music, electro. We call it electro funk,
Mm-hmm.
because we used to just call it electro, but now there's other types of electro. So we coined it electro funk. And, it came from one of my idol groups, Kraftwerk. Kraftwerk, and the Trans-Strip Express song was sampled by, or replayed by African Bada and Soul Sonic
Mm-hmm.
4
Mm-hmm.
for Planet Rock, which is one of the biggest dance songs in history. And it kind of, went from there. And on the West Coast, we were more into partying and freaking and all of that crazy kind of stuff. So it was all up tempo, 808, Planet Rock type beats and Kraftwerk type beats, over lyrics of partying and chasing women and those kind of things. And when I met JJ Fad, which you did the song Supersonic, me and Dr. Dre used to drive about 45 minutes out of LA to go hang out with them, because they lived in Rialto, California.
Okay.
And we were hanging out with the girls, and they weren't rappers. They were just
Right.
friends of ours and just hang out. And they used to always say, "We want to go in the studio. We want to do records. We want to rap." We're like, "Well, you can't rap. I'm not going to do that." And Dre was very adamant, like, "I'm not working with you guys. I'm out." So one day I was actually working on a Professor X song, and I had some studio time left over, like 4 hours, 5 hours. I think it was 4 hours of studio time, and about $100 an hour, $400. Okay. They were in there. It's like, let's mess around. I had an 808 drum machine and a Yamaha DX7. We did 2 songs. We did a song called Another Hoe Bites the Dust, which was talking about all the East Coast rap girls, like
Mm-hmm.
Real Roxanne and Roxanne Shante, and dissing them. And I was like, "Hey, you guys don't rap good enough to be messing with those girls, but whatever, let's do it. Maybe we'll get some buzz." And what happened? And then we had a little time left over, but I knew that they weren't that hardcore rap group that could
Sure.
battle rap like that. So, let's do a dance song. Let's do something fun. Had a little time left over, so we did Supersonic. And Supersonic was actually the B side of that single.
Okay.
And when the radio got it, and when the DJs got it, they started flipping it over and playing Supersonic. We had to go back and repress it as a single by itself, and it just blew up and just sell and still sells to this day. And it's Fergalicious, and it was
Mm-hmm.
in Rap God. It was the title for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie
Right.
trailer, and it's still going on strong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my kids love it now.
Oh yeah, and shout out to JJ Bad. Just yesterday, it's a weird thing. It's a big TikTok thing now too. Like,
Yeah.
people are dressing
Absolutely.
up and singing Supersonic on TikTok. I'm like, keep on going, keep doing it.
Uh, so, talk a little bit, if you would, about Innovate next. I mean, you have sort of put together a fund in the sense, an incubator, you do coaching, and you have, I look at the website, I mean, some of your tech partners in this are, I mean, Microsoft, Intel, Red Bull. How did it all get started? Sort of what's the model? And if you could talk a little bit, obviously nothing confidential, but some of the different, we mentioned some of the different investments you've made. What are the types of things you're looking at in general for the group?
Yeah, so it's all about the inner city. For me, it's all about the next generation and showing how I got to where I am. Showing kids, inner city, people of diversity, inclusion, all of those words, the buzzwords that people use. For me, it's not a buzzword. It's really about giving people access and getting people to understand that whatever you want to do is easy because all of the information is out there. So with our company, Innovate Next and Open Labs, we want to give people those resources and teach them that, hey, if you want to get into technology, don't think that you need to be an engineer. Don't think that you always have to be a coder or, be so into computers to do it, because technology is in everything we live in right now. Food, fashion, the bottle of water that you drink was
Hmm.
actually made with technology. Nike is built on technology. So, all the social media that kids take for granted is technology driven. And these social media influencers could be very valuable to some big corporate company. So that's my vision, is to just do something like that with Innovate Next and Open Labs, is just give people that access. And it's working. I speak at schools, I speak around the world virtually now, but still getting that message out there and looking at startups to help them grow their company. And with my partners, like the Microsofts and the Intels, I
Hmm.
can say, okay, Microsoft, here's a cool little company. Let's give them some resources. Let's help them grow. And it's an inner city company, it's a company that normally doesn't get the funding or normally doesn't get the
Sure.
resources that, tech startups do that come out of Yale or Harvard or Stanford or some big college. But they have an amazing idea. So that's just my thing, is just opening doors for people who don't have those doors open for them.
Very cool. Very cool. You've been very active, obviously even before this, in gaming and animation and so forth, creating a lot of these tools I mentioned in the intro. Just as a side note, I was my day job. I work in the pharmaceutical industry, and one of the areas that's gotten kind of hot recently is something called digital health. Uh, the very first digital product for attention deficit disorder in kids was recently approved by FDA. It's not a drug. It's a video game that they designed, and they I don't understand it, but somehow it works better than taking these nasty drugs they normally give kids. I was just very interested because of the you're involved in the COVID tech. Any interesting sort of things on the digital health front to sort of bring in healthcare to the picture besides the COVID stuff?
Oh yeah, most definitely. So a I won't say a partner company, we've been talking over the years and trying to figure out how we work together. They are called Affectiva. That's the name
Okay.
of the company. And they have an app called Affect Me. And basically what it is, it's AI. Um, what could I say? So basically what it does is the artificial intelligence can look at your facial expressions
Hmm.
and in real time tell you what they are, you know,
Hmm.
and how they've applied that to kids with autism
Sure.
is amazing. So basically, they've taken that technology and put it into these little cute little robot toys
Hmm.
with little screens on them that interact with children, right? And what that does is the kids interact with the robot. The robot can tell if the kid's happy, sad, whatever, and starts to teach the kid to be more, expressive. And
Mm.
I remember them telling me that there was a lady whose son would never have any emotion, would never smile, would never do anything. And after interacting with Affectiva and its products and stuff like that, they one day he looked his mother straight in the eye and was like, "I love you." And these things happen. So I'm very intrigued by those types of tools and things. And even with our COVID Tech product right now, we're looking at expanding it beyond
Mm.
COVID. We know this is a temporary thing, and there's going to be other things. And once you get a software solution into the workplace, into people's hands, now you have the ability to help them even further, whether it's social good, whether it's training, whether it's information for future outbreaks, or how to be healthy, and mental is a very, very big part of that, is being mentally healthy, especially when everybody's locked up right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, as part of your the theme of sort of the inner cities, you've spoken, you're very passionate about empowering students, young entrepreneurs, focusing them, you were saying, there's technology, but also the business education that goes along with it, helping keep kids off the street. And we've had, I've done a lot of shows, but I've done some shows with younger folks that, at a very young, 13, 14, they're thinking big. They're, trying to start their own biotech company, or trying to clean up the oceans and this and that. I think to myself, wow, if we had 1,000 of these, we could amplify this. I mean, these kids can really, because they're not afraid to ask the big questions, or they haven't been tainted by, having worked in like a big company somewhere that says, nah, you can't do that. Talk a little bit, if you would, about the importance of STEM education, sort of in this whole process. And then also, coming back, you were mentioning social influencers and stuff. Hip hop obviously is everywhere now. I mean, I don't do a lot of traveling, but when I do travel, I find hip hop all over the world. It's a great media for giving out messages to all sorts of youth everywhere. Do you think hip hop has a role in helping spread interest in STEM technologies?
Oh, most definitely. I was actually speaking on a panel yesterday, and we talked about music and rhyming in, specifically, in how that helps kids remember things and
Yep.
how it helps them to learn. And it's so sad that, when you're in kindergarten or preschool, they're teaching you your ABCs, which is a song. They're teaching you all of these little cute songs to get you to learn, to get your mind stimulated. But as soon as you get into like first and second grade, they go, all right, enough of that.
Yeah.
Sit there and learn this way.
Right.
And it's crazy. If these kids are learning in a very fun, rhyming type way to remember things, why aren't we implementing that throughout education period? I remember, and we're the same age. I know you remember Schoolhouse Rocks and Conjunction Junction and all of that stuff.
I still played for them.
I still remember every word from that. The
I learned the most important things in life from Supersonic.
Yes, we are Bill, all of that stuff. And why aren't we doing that today? And it's funny you bring that up, because we talked yesterday, and we're gonna do some songs like that. And I know some rappers have done it, and some other people have made some songs along the way, but I think it has to be bigger. It has to be a bigger part of education. And as far as STEM and STEAM, I'm really part of all of that, right now with some partners of mine that are doing a lot of things in STEM and STEAM. We just donated 70 computers with a partner to the Boys and Girls Club, that they're going to get out into the inner city, into the hands of people who aren't connected, who don't have a computer. They're going to get those out. And I'm working with another project called SOLA in South LA, that we're building out a technology center, an esport center for them. And hopefully COVID's over soon enough so we can actually get people into the space to get it done. It's so crazy how, the world is right now, and we have to figure out a new way to teach and a new way to inspire. And I think virtually is the way to go, because kids are on their phones and their tablets every single day, and this is a way to reach them and speak to them right now.
Outstanding. We started off, before we started recording the show, you're there in LA, lockdown. I'm here in Philly, lockdown. In this, pandemic, hopefully we're going to be seeing the light of day. Obviously, a lot of things have changed. And I was reading something, an article that you were in recently, and you were talking about, in this type of sort of social economic upheaval, it's the time when you can disrupt the outdated models. And as horrible as everything's going on, there's going to be some positive stuff coming out of all this. Can you talk a little bit about sort of going back to sort of those outdated models, the underserved communities, and some of the light at the end of the tunnel that you see in your own practice for what's going to be happening once we get through and get to leave this quarantine with regard to technology.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And here's one thing I want to say. One thing you mentioned earlier, and it has to do with this as well, where you were saying that the 14 and 15-year-olds are hungry right now and to create. Well, we got to think about this. Teenagers have created all the technology we have today. How old was Bill Gates? You
Yeah,
know, and was it Balmer with him? Who was with him
yeah,
when he created? It was Balmer, right?
it was
When
Bomber
they
and Allen.
created,
Yeah.
when they and Allen, yeah, when they created like DOS in a garage.
Yeah.
They were teenagers. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
They weren't grown men. They were teenagers, and they turned that into Microsoft. You know, you look at Apple, you look at Instagram, Snapchat, you look at all of these companies, Facebook, you know, they were all created in dorms, in garages, in
Hmm.
Google. All of these companies were created by teenagers, and now they're billion-dollar companies. So why are we not investing in kids at a very, very young age? Because they have ideas. They
Yeah.
understand things that we don't. I always say that kids are what's the word I'm looking for? Kids are imprisoned. Like we're all in prison now, but
Hmm.
kids are in a kind of prison because they are under the rule of their parents. They have to do what they say. They have to do what the teachers say. So when they get into their room and they close their doors, they got ideas going. They're like, what can I do to not deal with this crap?
Yeah.
I'm going to create like, okay, TikTok, I can do something here. I'm going to be a social media millionaire. There's 14-year-old kids that are millionaires.
Yeah.
There's a little boy that was doing was it Ryan's World or whatever, that was doing the little unboxing of the candy eggs, doing the surprise eggs.
Okay. Right.
That now he's a multimillionaire. He just did a deal with Walmart, you know, and some of his videos get 1 billion views. He's a freaking entrepreneur. He's a corporation now, you know, and there's so many ways to make money, but the schools don't teach you
Hmm.
that. They're still teaching what they taught 20, 30, 40 years ago, unless you're in a magnet school or unless you're in a STEM school. You know, they're just trying to push you through, teach you basic education. Where
Hmm.
I'm thinking that now, find out what a kid wants to know early and get them involved in that. And they can create a career out of it even before they get out of high school. And that's the goal, is to go to college and get a career.
Yeah.
But if you can get a career even before you go to college, that's what it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, you're doing so many things on the technology front, coaching, investing. I saw some videos recently where lecturing at the Los Angeles Venture Capital Association. I saw you DJing recently at Children's Hospital. Any other big things coming up? I know you're on a lot of panels now. Any stuff that you want to, non-confidential stuff that you might want to mention that's coming in the next couple months at this point?
Yeah, so I'm working with some friends, and they have some amazing concepts on education and gaming. And that's something I'm really into because most kids are playing games.
Yeah.
And if you can reach them with education through those games, and I wholeheartedly believe in the perk approach, meaning that, you know, sometimes you got to bribe a kid to do good, you know, to get those grades, because that's what parents do. Like, okay, bring me an A, I'll get you the Xbox, or I'll get you that
Hmm.
game, or
Hmm.
I'll get you those
Hmm.
Nikes that you want. And I think that we got to give incentives to a lot of these kids, especially now. Okay, so if there's going to be virtual learning, and I don't care if you get mad at me or not for saying this, some people out there, but virtual learning, it's hard to get kids to focus because there's nobody really watching them now to
Yeah.
make them do what they do. But if there were perks, like I'm working with Chipotle now, we're trying to figure out this partnership where, how do we get the education out there? How do we do more things in the inner city? How do
Hmm.
we get them more employees? Because they're looking for, from what I hear, 10,000 employees. And, you know, if you work for Chipotle for 15 hours a week, they will pay for your education. A lot of people don't know that. So I
Hmm.
love what they're out there trying to accomplish, and I want to help them. So my idea is, how can we partner gaming and education and make it something that, yeah, you can play games. Well, maybe if you do your lessons or do your work, maybe you get some power-ups in the game. You know, if you're playing Fortnite, power-ups are very valuable. You want
Hmm.
those new skins, you want those new things. Or maybe it's you get a free bowl or a burrito or something at Chipotle for finishing your schoolwork every day or something like that. There's got to be something that we give these kids to incentivize them to do better when there is no incentive to do so. So my thing is, if I got to pay for people to be successful and understand that education is amazing, I want to help do that as well. And the last thing I want to say about that is one thing I'm trying to create also is I think I launched a product called M Classic, which was a hardware gaming device for game consoles that will up-res every game console to 4K in real time. And when I did that, it was a success. It's doing really, really well. And from that, I was like, you know what? I want to create more hardware gaming devices for esports because I'm in the esports space
Okay,
as
sure.
well. But the problem with that is everybody's putting out product, but no one's really creating professional products for the pro gamer or the person that wants to be a pro gamer. Just like in baseball, when you watch a baseball player using that Rawlings bat, that may not be the same bat that you could go get at Big Five
Right.
or at Dick's Sporting Goods. They got a custom Pro Series bat that was tailored and made for them. So I'm working with some people now to create some products that are pro gaming products that can be customized for your gaming experience and make you a better player and, you know, put you at that top tier.
Excellent. My sons will be customers. Um, Mr. Zell, coming back to you, typically we wrap up the show with just a discussion about important influencers and mentors in your life. Obviously, you mentioned early on your family. You have hung out in circles with titans of entertainment, of industry. Obviously, it's probably a lot of people, but are there any specific folks you might want to shout out to at this point in this show that, if it wasn't for them, Mr. Kim Nazel would be off doing practicing law or or something totally different than what
Yeah.
you're doing now?
Oh, I still have to go back to my family, man. Like, you know, my uncle who I idolized, Wayne, we call him Hoggy, you know, he was the bad guy, but was always a champion for me and kept me out of trouble. And then, you know, when he got his life straight, he was always that pillar. All my uncles and cousins who went away to the military and came back with like synthesizers, you know, and ham radios, a lot of things that a kid in the hood couldn't get their hands on that I had access to just sitting there for hours and days, which made me this kid that wanted to get into electronics and technology even before, you know, those names, I won't say existed, but in a mind of kids existed with computers and stuff. Because I bought my first, you know, you'll know this word. Most people don't know this word unless you're old like us. I had a Trash 80, you know, I had a
Okay.
TRS 80, I
Yep.
had a VIC 20, a Commodore 64. I had all of these
Oh yeah.
computers before people even had computers. And that was all from an influence from that. And then my
Oh yeah.
father and mother both, you know, she was the music influence in my life. And my father wrote over 100 books. He had a talk radio show at KA's radio station. And I would sit in the control room opposite him where the DJs were. When he was on his radio show doing talk radio, I was in the control room playing with records and trying to be a DJ. So that helped spark my career. And yeah, I mean, those are my influences and all the Black leaders in America, because I grew up in the 60s. My father told me, you know, I was born during the Watts riots, and we
Yep.
lived in Compton and Watts in those areas. And he would have to go out during the riots to get me milk and things like that. So I appreciate the fact that I had people that cared about me and, you know, put me on that right path instead of letting me go astray. So
Wonderful, wonderful message. Really, really eye-opening stuff. It's an amazing set of things you're involved in and set of things you've done. Really inspirational. For everybody that's going to be watching on the YouTube channel or listening on the various podcast platforms, you've been listening to the amazing, multi-talented Kim Nazel, Chief Executive Officer and founder of Innovate Next, rapper, singer, songwriter, venture capitalist, startup mentor. Thanks for taking the time to come on the show today. Thank you for everything you've been doing. And as we say on the show, thank you for moving the human story forward, especially for the kids. This is an incredible set of projects and really wishing you the best with it. But it's been a real honor having you on the show today.
yeah, thanks for having me. And can I say one more thing? This is very
Absolutely.
important.
The floor is yours.
I don't care who you vote for. Go vote. If you've never voted before, if you don't know how to vote, ask somebody. Matter of fact, hit me up. You know what I mean? But especially for the kids they're old enough to vote, or the people in the inner cities, get out and vote. Don't complain about what's going on in our government or in our world. You can help create change because, like you said earlier, change is now, and we
Yep.
can do a whole lot in this next 90 days or next year to create a lot of change and make this place a better place.
Absolutely. Good message. Good
Thank
message.
you.
Thanks so much.